Hey everyone, just give me 1 second. Let me take the overlay out. Hi, how's it going? Uh, I see 404 in the chat. Some unknown MLHer is hosting this event. So let me introduce myself. Hi everyone, I am Deekshita Verma and I am one of the coaches with Major League Hacking. And this is part 2 of game development in Unity 101, and we had a little mishap in the last stream, but I fixed that. Unity was not working in my system and a lot of you folks were also installing it, so we've fixed that. I hope you all have installed it and it's up and running in my system now. I had to uninstall everything altogether and reinstall it, so I think we are good to go. But we learned game design in till then because we had to kill some time during the stream. Um, Hi Shimari, how's it going? I've seen you after a long time. Um, I found a screenshot of the very first Global Hack Week that you did last year in March. No, my first Global Hack Week was actually in February. If I'm not wrong, it was the MLAI week. That was my first one. I remember that very well. Hello, hi. Just give me 1 second. So, how's Global Hack Week going for you? It's almost to the end again, and I just feel like it starts and vanishes very, very soon. So, before we head on and go to a lot of technical conversations and live demo and stuff, I want to know how Global Hack Week is going for you all, and how all are you? How have you been enjoying? And yeah, I must be wrong. Well, it's the first stream of yours that I. Okay, nice. Happy anniversary of Global Hacking. Thank you so much. Uh, yeah, it's been crazy. Like, I was a college student back then, and now I'm a full professional. I have to manage my office as along with Global Hack Week, which are a mess, I would say. But yeah, I've been able to balance it somehow. So, I'll just present what we did in the last stream, but till the time being, let me know where you all are joining from. How's it going? Which streams are you liking the best in Global Hack Week? And yeah, overall, are you doing? Okay, I will go to the design doc. You were young and naive then, now brainwashed by Google. I mean, if you attend one of my streams and do not mention that I've been brainwashed by Google, then I don't think it's a complete stream. But we'll just remove the Grammarly suggestion from here. So this was the design doc that we came up with, and we have this racetrack environment and these cars, and we have the assets linked over here, the ones which we want to use, which is selected in the last stream. Um, Also an idea of the implementation. So now we have two streams today and tomorrow in which we have to cover up this game development. So we'll try our best to implement as much as possible, but this is the whole idea of how we want the game to be, and whatever is left can be covered in the future scope. So I'll try my best to help you understand Unity up to a level that you can build it up later and you can just complete the project yourself. Joining from Canada. I've been liking the Unity and Pygame streams. That's amazing. Thank you so much. And I hope you're having fun. I'm not sure what time it would be in Canada right now, but whatever it is, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's evening here in India. Hello, hi. Okay, so this is the idea that we need four screens: menu, game, car choosing screen, and game over and score. And these are all the things that we need: sound effects, music, obstacles, visuals, the power up designs that we planned about, and the content, title, instructions, catchy lines in between the game. So these are the things that come up later when you're building it on a commercial level. Right now we'll just try to build the major functionality of the game, that is get the car working on the platform, and make sure that it completes the entire track. So let's do one thing. Let's go to Unity. So I did tell where to download Unity from, but just in case anyone is new to the stream today, unity.com/download. This is where you get Unity Hub from, which looks something like this. Once you download it, these are all the games and the projects I've worked on before. This warning messages that I've deleted the versions of Unity they were built on before this. So this is the current project that I have, and it seems like there was some storage issue in my system which caused Unity to malfunction yesterday, and that's why we weren't able to use it. I am using the 2022 version now. So I was initially using 2019. I also had a version of 2021 stored with me, but both of them stopped working yesterday for some reason. So I had to install 2022. I had to install Unity Hub again because my Unity Hub was on my local disk C. My Unity installed was on local disk D. And overall, I think there was some program issue because of which it was a major, major mess, and a lot of storage issues, which I always suffer in this laptop. But you can use any version that you have. I just read which Unity version I was using now. You can use any version. Only thing is that some of the assets require, sorry, uh, only issue is that some of the Unity assets require a particular version and above. So we'll try to use those assets which are compatible in most versions so that none of you face that issue. uh, Unity is so good, they made a statue about it. Fun fact, I was actually working in a startup which was working on a project for Statue of Unity, and we had designed the entire model and architecture looking like that. And it was a really great project and a really hectic one. This was back when I was, I think, in my third year, and it was a very, very fun project and very complicated. We had moved it to AR and a mobile app and a full live demo of the exact statue. So which was very, very cool and very hard to build. Okay, tangent alert, but Deekshita, did you have a heart attack when Unity announced pricing changes? I know, and I don't have my student license anymore. So I am using a personal license which is just valid till April 2024. So if I have to continue building anything in Unity, I have to purchase a license, which I'm really sad about. Um, yeah. Yeah, I got that heart attack yesterday in the stream when I realized that my student license was ended. And I'm no longer a student unless I decide to pursue masters, which the chances of are very negligible. So, I mean, I'll have to purchase my licenses. We are having scheduled timings discussed. I usually wake up between 4 and 5 a.m. Wow. I generally sleep around 2, 3 these days because of work. But let's get back to the stream. This is where you download Unity from. You can install the hub from here. And when you install hub, it will give you a suggestion to install 2022 version, which is a good stable version. It says long-term support versions. So I would recommend that install that. The one which is the most latest will help you in longer run. Like I was using the 2019 version till 2023, and it was working perfectly fine. It did not work yesterday, so I had to install a new one, but it works really well. So just install whichever one they're suggesting. Make sure it is an LTS version though. Okay, moving forward, let's click on one of these assets. This is the racetrack, the environment that we want. So I will go to the asset store and purchase this asset, which is right now for free. Obviously, we've selected all the free assets. I'll click on add to my assets. And this terms of service basically mentions that you're not using it for any commercial purposes. Make sure that any project which you are planning to release later on, for commercial use, please, please, please do not use any of such assets. Probably try to make them for yourself using Blender. So I'll open this asset in Unity, and it will open Unity editor. Okay, the package manager actually opened on my other window. Let me just try to pull it here. Okay, why am I not able to pull the package manager to that side of the screen? One second, folks. Okay, the package manager disappeared now. Okay, yes. Yeah, it was successful. So this is the track, and I'll just click on download. I will explain the entire Unity screen once really well so that you get an understanding of what we are doing. Okay, Tintin is here. Hello, MLH community members. Hi, how's it going? How are you? We're great. What is the session plan? We're building a game in Unity. We had a game design created yesterday, and the design doc was also shared. I'll share that link again. And we have in mind to have a racetrack, a couple of race cars, currently single player. If time allows, we'll go multiplayer there. And yeah, that's the entire project that we're working on. Can you tell us more about the technologies adapted for this project lifecycle development process? We'll be using Unity and coding in C Sharp, and I'll be explaining everything right now. We're just installing one asset. Let me just share the design doc link, and please give me a heads up in case I go a little too fast. I have the tendency to speed up sometimes. So I will just checking, is a stream happening right now or is it offline? The stream is happening right now. I didn't get you. Like, I am streaming the entire thing right now. Okay. So this is the design doc. It has the architecture of what we are planning. Okay, what are the main important lifecycle development process for a video game project application? So that entire process was actually explained and when we went through it in the previous stream. So in case you want to catch up on that, make sure that you catch the part one of game development and Unity 101, where we discussed the entire design and basically figured out what we want to build. So this has the entire lifecycle development mentioned there. Okay. So this was the first asset which we have installed. I'll go back to my Unity screen and we'll click on importing this asset. Oh, wait. Again, it is a little slow. I mean, Unity will definitely get slow. Can you share the reference resource links in discussion window panel? Yes, the doc link is right here. Um, that's okay, Shimaji. This is the link which has the entire doc and everything mentioned over here. And yesterday it was streamed for part one, where we mentioned the entire thing of how we are gonna build the entire game. Let me just find the import window. So what's happening is it is sending these windows in my other screen where I'm streaming. So I have to pull it apart. Uh, so these are all the assets that we have in this particular pack. I am not going to modify any of this and just directly click on import. So this will import the entire model of the scene that we wanted. And we'll wait for that to happen. But till the time being, how many of you are completely, absolutely new to Unity? Like you do not know this window, you do not know the screen, or you do not know the basics. Last time when I streamed building a game from scratch in Unity, I had explained every single step of what each Unity window does. which is a very big, thorough process. So let me know if you want a short catch up of it so that you can understand, or you are already aware of how to work with Unity, so we can directly head on to the game. Um, you're new to Unity? Okay, I'll explain the process then. Did you use any add-on plugins or APIs libraries? We've just started right now and imported the first asset. We haven't started with any coding or anything as such. So you're right on track. Just sit tight and understand, and I'll help you out with everything. Okay. So first of all, in Unity, this is one major thing which I do. I change the layout to 2 by 3, and I move the project window right here at the bottom. So this is basically the structure which I've been working with and heading on to since the beginning. Like, this is what I like. So currently we have a sample scene, and in the hierarchy it says a main camera and a directional light. Directional light is like a sun in the screen, so it brings natural light. If I just deselect this, nothing will happen. But if I remove this, the entire scene goes really bad, like there's no lighting. So I'll just press Control Z, and this is what the lighting does. Main camera is basically the view. So if I go to the screen, so this is the scene and this is the game. This is where you build the environment. So let's say the scene is my entire room, and the game is what you see from this webcam, which is right here. So the main camera gives the game view, and the scene is where you set up the entire environment. So when I go to my scene window, and if I've selected something, when I press F, it focuses on that particular asset. So in this case, camera is my asset. And if I press on, I think that key is not working. But generally, when I used to press Alt, it used to help me. Okay, if I right click and do this, I can move around the scene and see everything alongside. And if I left click, okay, we have selected some other key. So if I go to the hand tool and I do this, I can view the entire scene. If I right click and move around, I can rotate and see across. So that's the sun. This is actually the light, which is lighting up the entire scene. And we go with the coordinates X, Y, and Z. So yeah, I'll just focus back on the main camera and go here. So there are 5 important windows, which is the scene window, game window, hierarchy. Hierarchy is where the entire scene view is mentioned, which asset is there in the scene, what it looks like, what do you name it. Everything in one scene is mentioned in hierarchy. Then there's the project, which is basically the entire folder. So when you see when you see the left corner of VS Code where the entire files are mentioned, project is something like that. Then there's inspector. So if you select any asset, its properties show up here, which include transform, which has position, rotation, scale, and then individual properties of that asset. It's fine. I think some basic knowledge of Unity is really, really needed before we head on. But I'm giving just a gist of it. In one of the streams, I did have time, so I had explained everything well in detail. But since yesterday Unity wasn't working, so we'll have to go on a little faster than what I actually wanted. So this is the, like, in the project folder. If I go to assets, currently there's a scenes folder which I already had by default, and this is the cartoon track folder which we had direct right now imported from the asset store. So I'll go to this. There's a track one, and luckily they have a demo scene. So basically they'll have a complete scene ready for us, so we don't have to create that environment. I'll go on to this scene, and there you go. So the entire track is already here, which is really great for us. So I'll just click on one of these assets, Press focus and you can see the entire view. So this is how the track looks like, and look how realistic this is. So generally when you're building a game which is, let's say, for commercial purpose or something which you're doing from scratch for another project, you'll have to create environments and scenes like this. So when I was mentioning the Unity project, actually the Statue of Unity project, we had created the terrain and everything by ourselves. But if we head over here, I think this could be taken as a start point. In the scene, we could start over here. We basically need a point or place where our track begins from. So I think I will use this as the start point, the one which we were going to first. Yeah, I'll take this as the start point for the game. Does that sound good? We haven't gone to anything more complex yet. We've just understood how the environment looks like. So first thing I'll do is, um, you see this bridge. So I'll say this is my start point. So I need my camera to face here and not through this entire like scene. So I'll just click on select, and this oval mod bridges is the place. Okay, wait. Oval mod bridges is my starting point. So there are multiple bridges here actually. And what we can do is we can go to this particular bridge and make this as a start point. So I'm going to use, oh wait, they actually have a track starter which is here, and then you enter the track. So we can place our car right over here. It's a little hard to navigate via this scene because it's super complicated, and lucky for us it's almost well built. So right where this building is, I want my camera and my player to stand here. Let me know in case we miss out on anything or you need to understand more. But this is the point. So what I'll do is I have to move the camera to this position. My camera is at some minus 325 or something. So we'll go to 0, 0, and let's say 10 in the Z axis. Actually, 10 would not help. 0 in the Z axis, but 10 in the Y axis so that we have a height. I think we are on to somewhere. Rotation wise, I will go 0 right now. I don't want the camera to be rotated somewhere. So I'm just changing the transform. The scale should remain the same. And let's click on the main camera right now. So the camera is somewhere here, which is very near to where we wanted it to be. I'll simply move the camera out, and yes, we are very near to where we wanted. If I move the camera 90 degrees, we got the point where we wanted to start. And you would definitely want the camera to face a little downward towards the player. So if I do this, okay, I did that to a bridge, not the camera. Keep it 0, go to the camera, and let's say 10 degree in the x-axis. So you see the camera is rotating downwards. I'll do that 25 for now and just save this. So is this the point where we wanted to start from? Yes, I just have to actually start from here. This is where our car should be staying. Okay. So we have this. Now we need one car to sit in this scene. So what I'll do is I'll again go to our design doc. This is the player, the car that we decided. I'll add this to my assets, accept the terms. Folks, feel free to ask any questions in between. I don't want you to get lost and not understand anything, because this is going to be a really fun project if we understand it. The major goal I have for today is to get the car up and running and the camera to follow along with the car, which should not be that complicated, I hope. Um, yeah, let's wait for this to. Okay, this has been downloaded. Let's import it in the scene. And these are the cars. Again, I'm not going to change anything. I'll just import. Okay, so like this, we have another race car package, and these are the race cars. So I'll go to prefab and it will have multiple cars. I'll pick up one of these, let's say the red car, and drag it to my hierarchy window, which means now this car is a part of the scene. So again, I know that somewhere near 000 is where it should be placed. So we've done that. Save the scene and let's find it. So when we place anything in the hierarchy in the scene and we can't find that object, just press F and you'll be able to find it. So this is the car somewhere sitting in some place where we don't want it. I think it's in one of those buildings. Okay, there are storage units inside the building. That's actually very well built asset. Okay, this is the car. I want it out. So again, I'll go to the arrow selector and just try to move it outside. Is it where I wanted it to be? Not really. So we'll again click on the arrows and drag the car out here. Somewhere in our camera window. And we'll have to rotate the car 90 degrees on the y-axis, 180 degrees on the y-axis actually. Oh, wait, 270 on the y-axis. A little forward. Let's focus in more on the car. And just try to move it forward. Okay, cool. Does it look well placed on the track? So in order to check if a car is well placed, just focus here. And if you see it touching the road, it's perfectly fine. And I think we are all set up to get the car moving. So before we do that, I want the camera to focus a little bit more. Let's go to the camera and pull its view closer, probably a little down here, a little forward, again, a little bit more down, a bit to the center, forward. Do we want it to focus 45 degrees and a little ahead? No, I think 45 degrees is too much. 30 degrees? Yeah, I think that sounds fine. Okay, we'll try to work with this. And if we feel we need the camera placement a little different, we'll do that. Okay. So we have the scene, we have the player. Now, first thing is to get it moving. So I've taken the liberty of already having a sample script with me because I wasn't sure how well will be in time. But I'll do one thing. I'll create an empty object which will have the entire scene view. And everything which was, first of all, I'll make sure that we have reset all the coordinates to default. What I'm going to do is I'll move the entire scene inside this parent object. So this will actually make it a little more managed and well done. Okay. Oh, I pressed Command S instead of Control S. That's what happens when you use half MacBook half of the time and Windows laptop half of the time. So it's just made it all well put together, and it will be easier to manage when you are moving scenes around. Now, I want the car to start moving, but before we do that, we need to add one component. So in games, there is one thing called as physics, which we need to understand a bit. So in the car, I'll add a property which is called rigid body. Now, if you have recently graduated from school, in 11th and 12th grade, you may have remembered the concept of rigid body. I think 12th standard physics had that, and it was a lot of pain for a lot of people. So, basically, this is going to apply all the force of physics on this object. And just to show you how this works, is I'll simply move the car position a little up. It's 1.07 right now, right? I'll move it 50. So it's somewhere in the air. Now, because there is gravity on this rigid body, if I press play, if the game starts, the car should fall down because gravity should work on it. So let's just press play. And the car fell down. Actually, the road did not have rigid body, so the car fell down from the scene somewhere. Let me just try to focus on the car, and it's just falling down and down. So we'll get back from play and let's see why our roads do not have a rigid body. So I think having rigid body on a terrain should work. And let's remove gravity on this. Or even if we have gravity, we should make it kinematic. Kinematic means no forces will apply on it and it should not fall. I'll just remove gravity just in case. And press play again. Hopefully, this will work and the car will not fall crossing the road. It still did. Okay. If we have gravity on the scene, what happens then? So, part of game development also involves remembering physics, but it's a very, very tiny part. It's not that complicated. Um, yeah, let's try again. The road is still, but the car is falling apart. So we need to make sure that the car does not fall. I think having rigid body on terrain is not helpful. Uh, we'll have to do something else. I'll just remove this component from here. Instead, we need to have this component somewhere else. I think terrain is actually the place where. Let me just zoom in on the colliders. There are colliders present on the road as well. Okay, let's just do one thing. Yeah, we do have colliders, so this should not be an issue. I'll explain what colliders are, but before I do that, let me just add a collider on the car. Let's just make it a box collider. Press F on the car, and it's perfectly covering the sides of a car. So this means that if you do not apply a collider on an object, we do not expect it to collide with anything, any obstacle or anything existing. But when we do apply a collider, it will collide and it will stop when it touches something which is also a collider. So I think this should work. And let's press play again and see if our collider can make the car stop on the ground. Yes, it can. So gravity worked, colliding worked. Let's stop the play and let's keep the car at 1.07 where it originally was. Actually, it will be fun if the player just drops down. How do you optimize the Unity video game graphics? So that's something which includes shaders, and it's something which we consider as a last step. So to optimize graphics and latency, you also need to make sure that you do not have a lot of assets. Like if I'm using just one car, if I won't use the rest three, and make sure that the storage is removed because that even causes latency in the game. Other than that, for movements, we have certain functions which make the movements faster and more smooth. And rest of the things are something like shaders, better graphics, less complex code, and less latency. That helps in optimizing the game graphic. Again, that's something which comes in the UI UX and game design part, or there are specific game designers who are only working on the graphics. So yeah, those are people who would know much more context about it than I do right now. But these are some basic concepts which actually help. So this is how the car looks like. Let's create a script to make it move. So we code in C#. I'll select on car, add a component, and just type player movement. This will be my new script. So what I'm gonna do is keep it in like camel case, new script, create and add. So I already have a script ready. I'll just be copy pasting code. I'll share that with you. I prepared that beforehand so that it doesn't take a lot of time. So currently the script is compiling. It's just preparing the script. Good thing about Unity is the C# is a little different from traditional C# that you use. You can also code in VS Code. I had installed Visual Studio along with Unity. So I'll just double click on this script and it will open Visual Studio 2019. Let me just open my old script. Okay. So there are two functions that you see here. Start, it is called before the first frame update. So like when you press the play button, at that point, whatever is mentioned in start, that is called, and update is called once per frame. So right now I'm trying to sit very stable, but the even the lip sync that you see. So every time my lip is moving, that's changing a frame. If my hand is here and every second my thumb moves from here to here, every small part of it is a frame change. So this function will be called in every frame change, every small movement, every second, even milliseconds, for example, for that matter. So what we are going to do is, currently I'm just trying to move it forward. So I'll have a public static float, which will be my move speed. Now, if we prefer to code everything in camel case, I'll keep it 10F for now. We have the move speed, and then we'll have to have an access to our rigid body. So this is something which I'll keep private so that nobody else can assign it. So I'll show what happens with public and private. Currently we have these two kept here. I'm just going to save it. I'll go back to Unity. So anything that you've set public, you can change its value from here in the menu. When you see the script, I don't think it's loaded yet because I have a public thing specified. It should be shown in the script. It's public static. Do we have static things mentioned? I don't think we operate static from here. Let's just remove the static part and keep it public float. You should see it in the menu here. Yes. So if you have a public value, you can operate it from here. Static, you can't, because static, if you keep changing it from every place where you use this script, then it won't be a static value and it would just mess things up. So anything which is public can be operated from here. Since we had the rigid body set as private, it you did not see it in the menu. So currently we have the speed, we need rigid body, and we'll keep a private. Oh, wait, what am I typing? Private float movement input value. So this will store the value of the movement, the input that I said, the operating keys that I'll be using. So I will also add another function which is called awake. Awake is called even before start. So awake for any scene is called altogether. Start is called when the first frame gets updated. Awake is called when the scene starts. So here I will assign rigid body equals to whichever object is attached to, get a component from there. Get a component of rigid body from there. So what this function does is that the rigid body, the private value I have, get a component rigid body from the object that you are attached to. So the object that I'm attached to is the car. I am saying that get a component which has like the type rigid body attached from the same component where the script exists. So it will reference the rigid body that I've assigned, and this body is where we'll apply force for the car to move. So let me go back to our script. In the start function, what we'll do is rigid body dot is kinematic equals false. So in case the rigid body is set kinematic, which I'll do, that it does not move automatically only until the script starts. So we'll remove the kinematic. We'll say that now you can apply force, gravity, anything you want, and my movement input value should be 0. So you need to initialize everything to 0 beforehand. We don't want it to have a value of its own. Now in the update frame, what I'll do is movement input value equals input. Now I want input from the vertical axis because I want to move forward and backward. So get axis, I'll mention vertical. So take input from the vertical axis, and now we'll define the movement. So here vector is of the type vector 3, the x, y, z coordinate, we said vector 3. We'll tell vector 3 movement equals to transform dot forward. So we are saying that the transform, the position it had, you have to move forward in the speed which we had, move speed which we are defining, and using the value movement input value between every time frame. So time dot delta time. Now I'll explain what we just did. So we are giving the value of movement which is in the forward direction. So the first thing tells us the direction, second is the speed, third is the value of the speed. Like third is the value in like which sort of movement. Let's say you've pressed this arrow key once and you're not pressing it again, it is 0 right now, it's very low. When you keep pressing the key, or when you push it forward, or when you're constantly pressing it to move forward, the speed is constant, right? So we're giving that movement input value. If you're pressing back, it will go back. If you're pressing forward, it will go forward. And time dot delta time, that's like 1 second, the difference between every frame. So we've told the moment, and now we'll apply force to rigid body dot move position. So we are going to move the rigid body's position from rigid body's current position to the movement that we've just calculated. Does that make sense? I hope it's clear. I tried to explain it as easy as possible. Let me show you how this works. So, as set player movement, error method must have a return type. Did we miss mentioning a return type somewhere? Yes. I mentioned it as private awake. It should be void awake because that's the default function that we have. It's void awake. Let's go back to Unity. This error should clear by itself. And yes, it did. There's just a warning. Yes, we wanted it to inherit that component rigid body itself. Now what we'll do is save and try to play. Okay. And the car is moving. So just the difference is when I'm pressing forward, the car is moving backward, and otherwise I think that's because the car is 180 degrees. So what we can do is we can actually add an empty object, rename it to my player, give it X, Y, and Z 0 position, and get the car inside this. So the this player will have position 180 degrees. Sorry, this player will have 270 degrees as its y-axis, and the car will be 0. But why did the player disappear? Let me just try to locate it. Okay, it is moved somewhere where we didn't want it to be. Let me just remove this. Yeah. So we want to rotate the player but not the car. It's moving it forward, not rotating it. What we can do is, okay, is this function increasing with time? Is it using delta for this? No. Delta is basically the unit of time. It's like just a difference between one frame to the other. It's not increasing with time. For that, we'll have to do something else. We'll have to add a multiplier to increase the speed every second. But right now, I'm just trying to adjust the position. So actually, the player should have these values and the car's value should be 000. So let me just modify this. And then it'll be fine. 0, 0. Yes. Now we'll move the player to 270 degrees. And let's try to play the game again. And I hope this will work fine now. So if I'm pressing the... Okay, no. That's the same thing which is happening. I think we are trying to place it on the opposite side of the track. Yeah, no, I think 270 degrees is not fine for this. So I just exit from play, uh, undo everything that we've done so far, remove the player. Yeah. And what we can do is keep it 90 degrees and the camera on the other side and just exchange the track over there. So let's go to the camera, take it here. Even the main camera is actually rotated to 90 degrees to 70. And let's move the camera forward now. You want the camera to be in direction of the car, not the other way around. Yeah, I think this should work. Let's try to play it again. I think we've written something wrong with the script and not the other way around, because it's still doing the same thing. So there was no point in rotating everything. Control Z, 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 Z. Okay. Let me just head back to the script and see what is it that we are messing up. It's probably the car's direction and position. Let's head to our script and check. So we say transform dot forward move speed and add this value over here, which is perfectly fine. So if I have, let's just monitor the position of the car. Currently it's this. If I press the forward key, it is reducing the position. And if I press the backward key, it is increasing it. So what if there's something wrong with the current position? And what if I do minus movement? I'm not sure if this is the right thing because it's never happened this way. But let's try that. I missed like an yes, you did. Okay, this is working fine. I think whatever movement we've been calculating is going in negative, but it works in our favor for now. I think it's because the car is 270 degrees rotated. So whatever we do, it will not be the perfect thing. So I think keeping it this way is fine. Cool. So we have the movement set up. Now we have to rotate the car as well. So I'll work on rotating the car. Then we'll take like a 5-10 minute break and then begin again. So let's head back to our script. I'll share the script with you all, so don't worry about that. It's actually pretty simple. Now, like we had movement value, we'll also have a rotatory speed and rotate value. So let's keep a public float turn speed. And turn speed will be 180 f because this will be in rotation, not the speed value, right? So moment value we kept 10 f, but for rotation we want 180 f. And again, similarly, we'll have turn input value as well. So private float turn input value, and then we'll make sure that at start the value is initialized to 0. It does not move by itself. And here we'll calculate. So turn input value equals input dot get axis. Now we want the horizontal axis for this. Horizontal. So rotation is tiny bit more trickier than movement. It's not that complicated. I'll just explain. So first of all, we'll have float turn. This is the basically the angle or the turn direction, like we calculated movement. Similarly, we'll calculate the turn direction here. So float turn equals to turn input value multiplied by turn speed multiplied by again time dot delta time. Time dot delta time is like a unit of time. Um, Basically, when we say that when we are calculating a direction or distance, we do speed into time. So we multiply it with unit time, right? If we know that it's per second and you want what area it will cover in 1 second. So similarly, this is like a unit time for unity. I hope that makes sense because we are talking about one frame. So we have the turn value. Now we need to define it in an angle. So we want to move just the y-axis, right? So what I'll do is similar to vector. For angles, we have quaternion, and this will be my turn rotation equals to quaternion. Now, if we remember physics again, we are specifying an Euler angle. We used to study Euler angles there. These are 3D angles, and this will be 0f because we don't want any movement in the x-axis. We don't want any movement in the z-axis, but we want turn in the y-axis. So this is the angle value, and what we'll do is rigid body dot move rotation equals rigid body dot rotation into, now for speed we did we added or we subtracted this distance. What we wanted to move, for rotation we'll have to multiply it, multiplied by turn rotation. Now this will be tricky because our actual object is 270 degrees rotated, so we'll see how this works. Otherwise we'll have to probably moderate this function a bit. Let's head back to Unity. In case there are any errors, you see that on a warning here, like there's a warning. And also, if you click on it, it gives you a console window. So what I do is I just keep it here with hierarchy in order to check any logs if I want. So let's play the game. If it starts playing, that means there are no errors. And yes, it's turning well. So the car has started on the track, which you can see in the scene window, not the game window, and it's going somewhere away. Okay, let's bring the car back. Let's try to bring it back. I am not that great with driving cars in games. I mean, I can crash anything in Vice City, but that's it. Now, if you see, I think the car is sinking a bit in the terrain, so we'll have to do something about that. But, or is it just because it's a small racing car? That's why I think. No, I think it's sinking a bit in the terrain. So what we'll do is go onto the car, the collider that we had. I will click on this, press F, and probably increase the size of the collider a bit. So you see the collider, you see the small point that we have here. I'll just press on this again. This is the bottom collider. I'll just increase the size up to the tire's length. This is the tire length and this is the window. So it will not sink inside the terrain. It will move a bit higher. So I hope this should be fine. We'll try to play again. And now that we see it, it's not sinking inside the terrain anymore. So yeah, we've got this working and the car is rotating fine. So we'll take a quick 5-10 minute break. I'll come back. You can ask your doubts then. And we'll have a good enough water break. Then we'll make the camera follow along. And a lot of things will be prepared today itself for the game. Okay, I'll see you in some time. And yeah, let's take a short break. Grab some water, coming back soon. And I'll just shut off the camera and play some music in the background. Folks, I'm back. Oh, wait, I was speaking on mute. Hi, I'm back. How's it going? What are we thinking about the game? Do you have any questions? Feel free to ask. Kindly, we just have a player moving on the racing track, and I think that we'll increase the speed a bit because honestly, 10F is like very slow. So I'll just keep it 20 from here itself and save it. So what I'm going to do next is to make the camera move with the basically the car, because obviously we want to see where the car is going, and when we started playing we couldn't see where it was heading to. So in order to make it better, okay, I was trying to click on the StreamYard screen instead of this, um, to make this better. I actually like the whole scene really a lot, and I would probably use this asset for something else too. It's very very cool. Like the sitting tables here, they have storage facility units, and they have a proper stadium sitting, and it looks really cool. So yeah, uh, now the next step is to make sure that the camera moves along with the car. So I'll again make a script for that. But before we move forward, feel free to ask any questions if you have, and just keep stopping me in between whenever you think that we're going too fast. And I hope you're liking what we're building so far. So what I'm gonna do is see if I already have a camera script with me, and we'll just probably pull that. Yeah, so there's this camera movement script that I have. So I'll just explain and use this script directly. What it does is, this is a common script which I use in every single game that I've made so far. So just keep this script handy. So we have a transform for the car position, and we have difference in the x, y, and z axis. We are currently just moving it. We are just currently moving it. We are not rotating the camera alongside. We'll keep the camera stable, because otherwise, if you move the camera along, it will go a little too complicated, and I don't want that right now. So what we are doing is we're just storing the difference between the current position of the car and the camera, and on every update what we do is we apply that difference to the current position like we have. So I'll try to make sense out of it. What you are doing is, let's say, okay, I have a lipstick kept here on my table. So this lipstick is the car, and this watch is the camera. Okay, so the difference between the lipstick and the camera in the x-axis is 5. So when this moves 10 ahead, we want to apply 10 to the camera alongside to move with it. So that's what we are doing, so that they both can move together. So this is the script. Now, since we had some position and rotation different, this script may not exactly work, but we have a draft along with us. So what I'm going to do is, on the camera, first of all, I am going to pull this script from wherever I had and move it here. So we have a copy of the script inside a folder for Unity. And now what we are going to do is, on the main camera, I'll attach this script by dragging and dropping. And now I need to give it a car position. So I'm going to pull the position of the car and give that to the script, save it, and let's see if this one is working for us. Yeah, so if you move this, now the thing is that we will have to rotate the camera, otherwise at one point this is what will happen. They're still maintaining the same distance, but the angles have messed up and the car is falling somewhere. So we'll have to rotate the cameras as well. So we'll have to find something for that. Or probably, I have one more thing in mind. If we freeze the position of the camera, yes, That's something which will make sense though. If I freeze the rotation of the camera in X and Z direction, but if the position keeps moving, let's just try this. So, what I'm thinking is, let's say I have a rigid body on my camera, there's no gravity on it, it's kinematic, but in my constraints, I freeze rotation of camera in all aspects. What happens then? We're actually still not rotating the camera, so I'm not sure if it will make sense, but let's just try it. So, yeah, when we are trying to rotate the car, the camera will still be the same. That's the issue that we are facing. Yeah, right now the camera is in front of the car, which we did not expect. We wanted to stay behind. So right now it's completely changed the dynamic. So we'll have to make sure that the camera also rotates with the car. Currently, what's happening when I move X and Z? Okay, yeah, and here I'm just trying to notice the angles of the car. So we have to make sure that the camera rotates with the car, but I think stays frozen in the y axis. Okay. So what we'll do in this camera movement script is, this is difference in x, y, and z. But if I want to rotate my camera with layer in Unity, so I'm just trying to find a quick fix for this. Oh yes, there's a function called transform.lookAt. That's the one which I forgot to add. So in the update, if I add this where it has to always look at the player, position, we'll just change this to car position. Actually, we'll name it as, okay, we'll just keep it car position. So it always has to look at the car position. This way, I think the camera will always follow along. I knew that there was no function to directly, now it's run smooth. Yes. Let's just try and move this. So this will should always keep looking at the car's position, but it's still not working that way like we want it to. Because the track has rotation in it and we're just associating the space movement. We also have to make the track a little friendly that the car does not derail to the terrain. Otherwise, this is again another Vice City experience happening. So we did had add something as look at for the car camera, which should make sure that this does not go anywhere else and keep looking at the car position. But I think there's something else that we're missing. What we can do is that we can apply movement to an empty object and just have the camera inside it. Even that will make sense. Let me just explain what I'm trying to do. Okay, let's do one thing. Have an empty object, just keep it parent to player and camera. Okay, and then we have our car in here and our main camera in here, right? Okay, wait, we did not reset the parent. Reset to default. We have the car in here and we also have the camera in here. So they already have something attached to it. Now this player movement script actually goes to the parent and not the car. And similarly, the rigid body also goes to parent and not the car. So we'll remove the rigid, just copy this component, and here when we add a component rigid body, we just paste the component values, save it, probably keep this here for the car as well, and try to just play it and see. Oh, I think I have to remove the camera movement script. Okay, wait. We do have a box collider here. Let's just remove gravity from this one and remove the camera script from here. I'll just explain what I'm doing. I'm trying to apply PNC and see which way it will be really smooth. Nope, we have gone to something very different. I mean, the camera is following well along, but this has turned into something very, very weird. Because in our player movement script, this is the current transform, which is 000. So if I try to play and if I press any of the keys, yes, it's a ghost car right now. What's happening is it's just moving the Z axis and it's trying to move the X axis, and it's definitely going somewhere which is not where we want it to be. So what I'm gonna do is I'll move back to whatever we had before and we'll figure out another way to make the camera follow along. Otherwise it's gonna be really bad. We'll remove the parent. The camera is still looking in the direction, but we just need it to rotate alongside. 90% of the people clicked off the stream the moment you mentioned physics. I mean, it does not require a lot of physics. There's a little bit of mechanic concepts that are used. And thanks for the summary. Some mechanisms in game engine work from frame to frame. However, for stuff like player movement or physics, that just does not work. Each machine has different performance. Does Unity has a built-in version control or do you use GitHub? Unity now has a built-in version control, but when I used it before, it did not. So I use GitHub only. I actually, when I updated my Unity today, that's when I realized that Unity has introduced their own version control, which is really cool. We definitely want the camera to rotate with the car. Otherwise, it's not a great experience when you move right or left. I'll try to do something. Not sure exactly what. I'm trying to find some way where I made the camera follow along as a player, along with the player. There are a lot of Unity discussion and forums where you can directly use it, use the code from. So I'm just trying to find something really quick from there. What if we just write that rotation of my camera is equal to car dot rotation? I mean, it will mess it up because they're not set the same. But what if we try to do that? And here, I don't want to change the x-axis rotation. I might want to change the z though. Let's try this. Yes, I think the camera is not entirely rotating. But is it? No, it's not. Because the car rotation is for 422. The camera's rotation hasn't changed though. So that did not work. Hmm. What other way do we have to make that working? I think because I have both look at and rotation, that's why it's not working. If I just have the rotation change and freeze the rotation in the y-axis. No, the camera still does not rotate. What changes in rotation do I actually want? So currently it's 270 degrees on the y-axis, which remains the same. I want it, okay, definitely not the rotation I wanted. I just want the rotation change in the z-axis. No, actually it's just the y-axis rotation which I really want to apply. Z-axis is only when it's following a terrain, that's when it gets rotated, which is not something we want. We mainly want rotation in the y-axis. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something very similar to the player movement where we had these values, and I'm going to try to apply the same rotation to our camera. So I'll have a private float turn camera equals to um, x will be 0. I don't want to move it in the 0 direction. y will y will be the one which we're moving, so we want y to be uh, our car position dot y and car position dot rotation dot y. Again, this to be 0f, and we'll have to give it a rotation value, right? I mean, I'll try to have a rigid body or just transform dot rotation equals to, I'll actually keep it the current rotation that we have. Transform dot rotation dot x, and we want y and z to rotate like the car. So car position dot rotation dot z. So transform dot rotation equals turn camera. I don't know if that makes sense, but we'll give it a try. You can directly just give this transform dot rotation. Does that make sense? Oh, I'm not on my stream screens that I cannot see the comments. Let me just head back there and see if this is making any sense and if we are working fine with this. Let me just get back to StreamYard. Okay. Hi, I have missed a lot of comments. Just put the camera in the car and call it FP. I mean, I don't want to do that. Does this help? It could. I'll have to probably type the comment. Set camera's orientation based on car's angle. Maybe it can work. I think the thing that I've just added should work. So, is the camera rotating at all? No, it's not. I had added freeze and kinematic both in the camera, which made basically the camera would not rotate at all, because of which. Let me just remove that. We don't want a rotation freeze, and we don't want the camera to be kinematic. Basically, kinematic means no force or physics applied on the camera, so but it still does not rotate the camera. Or is it not rotating as trickier as the car is? You just know if we follow this terrain. Yeah, it's not working. I mean, there's something, the camera generally always follows along the position and it's not that tricky. So we never added a follow rotation along thing, but in this case, it's somehow removed this component. I don't want a rigid body on the camera. Let's see if it works now. Or if it had, the camera would have rotated alongside. After removing the rigid body, let's just try transform.lookat. Which script is it? This generally always follows along and you do not need any other function. I think you don't have to do that on the position, you just have to do that on the target. So this should work. I don't know why this camera is so adamant to not rotate alongside. At least it's still just looking at the car. So if I go over there, yes, It will still look at the car, but it will not rotate 180 degree or something unless we have the script on entirely the car and the camera. And I'm not sure if we want to do that. But okay, the car has entered ghost mode again. But I do want to make sure that we always stay behind the car. We just do not go forward. So the difference is actually not being maintained when we follow this terrain. What if, okay, when the car rotates up to that level, what angle does it go to? Let's just try. Set camera's orientation based on car's angle. Um, Not sure how to do that. If we set camera's orientation based on car, so that basically means making the camera a child of the car will work without any script actually. Yeah. So if I just remove this script and just remove the component, since it's a child, whatever happens to the camera will happen to the car. Sorry, whatever happens to the car will happen to the camera. So if the car is moving, the camera is following along. Yep, we just had to make the camera a child of the car and it will be working absolutely fine. So it will be rotating everywhere alongside, and if the car falls down, the camera will also fall down. So we do not need any script for that. I just remembered this. Like whenever we have any rotation aspect, we have to make the camera a child of the player. And in this game, it's the child of car. So when you see that the car is lifting a bit forward or drifting any bit, the camera is also seeing those bumps. So in that way, the experience looks even more cool. So we have a race course and car setup. We don't know the start and the end points yet. We have not demarcated anything here. A cool functionality would be to add a small map feature, which will help some, which will look something like Vice City. Because that's like one game which I've played a lot since my childhood. So that's like one reference which I always remember. But yeah, that's how it could work. So you see, if the roads are a little tilted, the car was also tilted. Now it's flat. That's because we added a box collider, so it was working that way. And I think we're back to the same place where we started from. Just that's where we started, and we've completed one rotation of the track. Let me just take the car a little back and keep it here. Yeah, I think it looks cool. I'll just remove the script. We spent a lot of time in figuring out camera movement where we just had to make it a child of the car. So there's one thing called as prefabs. That's like one functionality or one feature that you will say exists in Unity. And what prefabs do is they act as a static object. So something you've prepared, something which is like a basic functionality which is done from your end. Um, how do I explain it? How do we explain a prefab? So let's say I wanted to add 7 coins in the game, hidden everywhere else. Should I make 7? So, and they have to be of a very particular orientation and a very particular shape and in a very peculiar position. So, I'm just trying to add complexity of how exactly do we need to set it up. So, what I'm suggesting is that we either place every coin specifically and set those properties in it, or have a static coin with all those properties saved, and you just have to keep copy pasting it everywhere. So that static thing that you have saved with you is called a prefab, and when you make changes to it, that's what happens. So anything you see in blue is a prefab, and since we've made a change, we've added a camera to this prefab. That's why you see a plus sign here. So you can actually modify this prefab, like there is an override, right? So do you want to apply all those overrides of having a rigid body, a box collider, movement script? So this will be helpful when we have four players, or when we have multiple players, or when we have multiple cars. So we save this in prefab. That means every car will have this basic functionality, and you don't have to modify it yourself. I hope that makes sense. So we have this ongoing. What I'm gonna do is I'll add one obstacle at least and show how it works, and then probably set it up well for the next stream, um, because we are almost on time. We just have 20 more minutes. So in the next stream, I want to add menu screen and switch over here, and probably add a game over screen. So we just had the basic functionality working. What I'm going to do is inside the obstacles, we had stones, or we had, I think we were installing the traffic cones. So we'll put 1 2 traffic cones, and those will be the barriers. So when you actually collide with the traffic cone, you lose points, or it just slows you down. And we are calculating time from one point to the end point. So I think in the last stream, what we'll do is we'll add the time difference from one point to the end point. What else can we do? We'll add a score, probably a count of the coins collected, and just these traffic cones to slow down the person. And if you've hit the traffic cone, let's say 5 times, you lose. You have to start over. So these three things we can do. I'll just add it to my assets, import it, and add it to the scene. I think we can implement all the collider logics in the next stream itself. So I'll let you know how colliders work, and we'll add a monitor screen, a menu screen as well. And that can be done in 2 hours. The major thing is to make the player work, which we have. So we won't require a lot of work after that. So we have the traffic cones. Let's go to the asset folder. There's an industrial traffic cone material, and there's a prefabs folder. So they have multiple prefabs of the traffic cone set up. I am going to import one here, give this value 0 0 0, and just try to locate it in the scene. So it's similar to where the car was. We'll move it outside. Again, press F to find where it is. It's right here. So let's take it forward and somewhere ahead of the car. So what I'll do is I'll show you how to make a prefab. We'll duplicate multiple parts of it. I'm just pressing Control D. I think 4 is fine. Arman is here. Okay. Do these streams have recordings due to some work I missed today's session and you seem to have covered a lot? Yes, they are recorded on Twitch as well as YouTube. So you can find this Twitch on Twitch. It stays for a month. On YouTube, it's there forever. And this is going to be a lot of fun. So I hope you catch up before that. Hey, Arman, Coast Car, Unity for the win. How's it going? Good. How's it going? Okay. So I'm going to just remove this traffic cone and I'll make a brief empty object again. Name it obstacle. Give again reset its transform. Now what I'm going to do is I will move all of these traffic cones inside this obstacle and create a prefab out of it by just going to the assets folder, create a new folder here. So when I pull this obstacle inside the project, it becomes a prefab. Now I can use these anywhere directly. I don't have to set them up again and again. So when we start playing, you see the cones here. Now we obviously easily crossed from it, and I think the traffic cone should be a little bigger. But when we collide from here, we will be recording it and make sure that once the player has collided 3 times, they have to start over again. Does that make sense? I'll increase the size of the cones. So again, we have an advantage that inside these, all of these traffic cones are prefab. So I just have to adjust the scale and size of one. So I'm gonna make it 1.5, 1.5, and 1.5. I'm gonna save that. And in the overrides, you just have to do apply all. So all of these increase to the same size. Now, if we play again, you will see bigger cones. You can make them as big as you want. I think I'll go. Whenever you make changes, make sure that you're outside the play mode. Otherwise, those changes do not get applied. So we'll make it 2, 2. Oh, it became 22 instead. And 2 here as well. Okay. And I'll do override and apply all. And since we're making a change in the prefab itself, that's why we don't have to apply all here. So yeah, I think the traffic cones look a good size now. So this is something which you all can do yourself. I'll be placing these cones in a lot of places in the scene. And since we are passing through it easily, I am going to attach a rigid body or a collider here. Let's see what all this traffic cone has. It does not have any collider. So what we're going to do is add a box collider, and again we want this override to be applied. Okay, I am going to just remove this component for now. Let's edit our prefab. Inside this, go to a cone, add component, box collider, and just override apply all. I hope this does not cause any mess ups and it actually collides with the car, but it should not make the car fall down. Was that sound from in the game? No, it wasn't. Okay, so my sister's cooking right now. Yeah, it just moved the car somewhere. Uh, my sister is actually cooking. That was a pressure cooker sound that you heard. Okay, I don't want the car to just rotate everywhere. I probably want the obstacle to be impacted, not the car. Add component. The cooking sounds like a tire deflating. I do have some noise reduction in my mic, so because of which it might have messed certain things up. I think we'll keep it kinematic and remove gravity, and let's see if that helps. We're just trying to make this change, and then um, I think it sounds cool. Yeah, I think that was fine. But the car does have a lot of impact from this. So I think we'll have to make sure that the car does not loop around anywhere. If I freeze the rotation of car in the x-axis, I mean, I'm not sure if that will help. Nope, it didn't. The car is dancing somewhere. Okay, it's not on ground anymore. I don't know why the car is dancing so much. Oh, because the car also has a box collider which is not stable anymore once we've done that. Okay, I should have kept that in mind. But okay, I am going to do one thing. What provides whether or not this collider provides contacts without any mono behavior listener? I'm not sure. I've never seen the provide contact thing. But what we'll do is for now we'll let it pass through and probably think of something else because this way the car will bounce somewhere else in the air. So I am going to apply something which is called is trigger. That means you detect a collision but you don't stop the player there. So we'll just probably add a sound and not actually make the car dance everywhere. So let's just try and play again. And this should not impact the car anymore. Yes, this worked fine. And I think I froze the rotation of the car in the x-axis. Does that impact? Yes, that does impact the car. So we'll go back and for the car, keep it like it was. Control S and play. So you go a lot of back and forth when you are doing this kind of a step. And this should be fine now. One thing that we haven't done is the um, car wheels don't actually rotate. They're just floating around. So if we have time, we'll add an animation for the car wheels to actually rotate when they're moving. Because if you actually see from the side right now, the background view is fine. But if we try to see the car from a side point of view, let's do something like this. So yeah, this is the car, right? I'll just show you when it moves. The wheels don't rotate, it's just floating above the road. So if we do get time, we'll add an animation for the wheels to rotate. So I think that's pretty much it for now. I'll create a repository for GitHub and probably share it in some time. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you in the next series. which will be the last part of game development in Unity 1-on-1. Feel free to ask any questions on Discord or right here if you have. And I hope you're enjoying this, and I hope this thing makes sense. I'm trying a lot to explain everything, but it's very hard to explain the entire game so easily in just 4 or 6 hours. Um, so yeah, thank you so much for joining. Uh, I think 404 and Arman left. I'll here for another minute or two in case you have any more questions. I'll definitely share the GitHub repo link for this game. I think that's a bye. Thank you. Thank you, Shimri, for joining. I hope that was a bye. But okay. Yeah, I'll see you on the next stream. Thank you so much for joining, folks. Bye. Happy hacking.